Hello everybody, my name's Water83 of the 133rd Squadron RAF Eagles in Aces High 2. This is my very first video. I'm making a series of tutorial videos for those who want to know the basics and then some of the advanced stuff in Aces High 2. I've been playing the game for a few months. I'm by no means an expert, but I do know enough, I think, to give you some good videos. So today's lesson or video is literally a very brief introduction to how an aeroplane flies, the flight controls and your basic instruments. You should be able to get off the ground with this information and fly around. So let's get going. The first thing I need to talk you through is the instrument panel. The main instruments we'll focus on today are these here and these here. These are your most important ones. So we'll start here. This is the airspeed indicator. It shows you your airspeed in miles an hour. It's pretty self-explanatory that. This isn't 48 miles an hour, it's 480. This is your artificial horizon. Not very useful since you'll be looking out the window, but it is useful in cloud, although in the main arenas, training arena, there's never any cloud. Some of the special events do have cloud, and that gives you a good indication of how your plane is relative to the horizon. This is a VSI, or vertical speed indicator. It shows your climb or descent rate in thousands of feet, so 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 and so on. This is your altimeter. Although I'm on the ground, it's showing that I'm at just over 3,000 feet. That's because that is the height of this airfield above sea level. Always worth bearing in mind if you're flying low that the ground may not actually be at zero, so always keep your eyes outside of the aircraft. This is your compass, which shows the position of your aircraft's nose relative to magnetic north. So at the moment we are pointing northeast, which is about heading 045. This is a slip indicator. This basically, if you use the rudder to slip, it will show you how much side slip you've got, left or right. So rather than flying dead straight through the air, your nose will be off to one side, and it's not very important at this stage, but it does slow your aircraft down if you're not flying perfectly straight. It increases drag. These are your engine instruments. The RPM gauge shows the propeller's revolutions per minute. There are separate controls for altering the RPM on the prop. Lowering it basically helps with fuel consumption, and the Spitfire goes through petrol like there's no tomorrow, so it is useful, but for this flight we won't worry about it. This is the boost gauge. The British aircraft in the game and of the era measured thrust in pounds of boost. Basically, the higher the number, the more throttle you have on, and this is the idle reading where it is now, and it can go up to anywhere around here. Underneath that, these are your oil pressure gauge, so it shows the pressure of the oil in your engine, and this is the engine temperature gauge, with the yellow and a red area. Red is bad, yellow is be careful, and white is normal. You don't have to worry about these either for this lesson. These become important if your engine takes a hit during combat. It can tell you how long your engine's going to last, and also when you're using high throttle settings, the engine can get hot and your WEP or war emergency power will turn itself off when it hits the red area. So if you're in combat and you're trying to run away from someone, if your needle is near the red, you may not have much extra thrust available. So but I'll go into that in more detail in a later video. And finally at the bottom here, this is a very important gauge. This is your fuel gauge, so obviously again self-explanatory: full, empty, red and yellow again to warn you, and I've got 3/4 of a tank of fuel for this, which will only give me about 17 minutes of flight in Aces High in the Spitfire, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's not too bad. Right, so that's it for the instruments. I'll just hide the clipboard. So I turned my engine off when I started the video. When you load up on the runway, your engine will be on, but to turn your engine on in Aces High, you press the E key. So I shall do that. You can see the RPM gauge there on the top right of the instrument panel has started to climb once the propeller starts turning. And so now the engine is started. I've got my throttle pulled all the way back so I don't go forward. If you look down here, you can see the flight stick in the middle of the cockpit there. If I move my joystick left, it basically makes the ailerons on the wings go up or down, and that basically turns the aircraft, it rolls the aircraft. So when you're in the air, if you push the joystick left, the aircraft will bank to the left. If you push the joystick right, the aircraft will bank to the right. You'll only need small deflections. Bigger deflections will make it happen more quickly. You can push your joystick forward and pull it back. Pushing forward will push the nose of the aircraft down, so you will lose height. Pulling back will pull the nose of the aircraft up and you will gain height. Again, small corrections. The World War II era aircraft had very large control surfaces, especially a Spitfire, to make big manoeuvres. If you pull too sharply, you can cause the aircraft to stall or go into a spin, which is not very good for flying. You can see the elevator there. That's where I'm pulling back on the stick, and that's where I'm pushing forward. It alters the airflow over the tailplane and pitches the nose up or down accordingly. So obviously you can also do a combination of those, so you can go left and forward, you know, like so. The two pedals down there behind the flight stick are your rudder. I've got a twist rudder joystick. You may have rudder pedals. If you've got pedals, obviously you press your left foot down, that'll feed back into the game. Right foot feed back into the game as well. With a twist joystick, if you twist the joystick left, the left foot goes down. Twist it right, the right foot goes down. This affects your rudder on the back of the tail there, the vertical part of the tail. That yaws your aircraft in flight. It is also the way you turn the aircraft on the ground. The three controls together then will control your aircraft in pitch, roll and yaw. Your other control is the throttle. The throttle is just here. I've got a throttle on the joystick, so if I push it forward, the throttle goes forward, the aircraft starts to accelerate. I pull it back and the aircraft will slow down or stop. Now with Aces High, like I said, when you start, the engine will probably be running already, and it will probably say auto takeoff enabled on your screen like that. The key to turn that on or off is Alt and X. I prefer to take off with it enabled. It's a lot easier, especially when you're new to the game, because the propeller will want to pull the aircraft in a certain direction depending on which way the aircraft propeller rotates. So for now, I really recommend you make sure that auto takeoff is enabled, and basically that will counteract the torque of the engine with rudder for you, which you can see the controls will do that as you increase the throttle. So simply with auto takeoff enabled, we're going to increase throttle to full power and then we will take off. So I'm going to do that now, and as we take off, if you notice the instruments, you'll see the airspeed indicator will start increasing, and we'll probably take off around here, 100, 120, and then once we're airborne we'll confirm that we're climbing by looking at this to make sure it's up here somewhere, and make sure that this is increasing this way. So we'll do that now, and we'll make sure that the engine responds as well. So here we go. So there you go then, you can see now the boost is reading nearly 12, the RPM shot up, airspeed is increasing, we're at about 100 knots, we're going to go off the ground now. There we go. The auto takeoff will also put your landing gear up, so if we look here you can see your gear here, the lights went out as we took off. So we are now flying, we've got a 3,000 feet a minute climb, we can confirm that we're climbing because this is increasing. Airspeed is stable because auto takeoff will now keep us in a nice stable climb, and if we look out the window we can confirm that our instruments, what our instruments are telling us, is correct. So I'll just keep it on auto takeoff for a minute. We'll just climb up quite high so I can do some basic handling, and then we'll come back into land. I'm doing this flight in the training arena today. I do recommend you use the training arena while you're new. It's just good to get a feel for the game without being shot down every 2 minutes. There's often other guys in here and there are trainers, so you can ask for help, and also if you shoot something in here you will hear the hits but you won't actually get shot down. But it's always good just to check that the other person is happy for you to shoot at them, which most people are. So right, we're just coming up to around 8,000 feet, so I'm going to level the aircraft off at 9,000. With auto takeoff enabled you can literally just move your joystick to turn it off, or you can press X or Alt and X. I just like to move the joystick, so I'm just going to push the joystick forward to push the nose down, and now you'll see the climb indicator is reading 0. The artificial horizon's pretty much saying what I can see out of my window, and the aircraft speed is increasing all the time because I've still got full power on. The white needle on the airspeed indicator is your airspeed, or indicated airspeed, sorry. The red dot just to the right of it, that's near the 2.8 now, is your true airspeed. So that it's not really that important. Your aircraft relies on indicated airspeed for the purposes of you flying it, so just focus on your indicated for now. The altimeter has stayed around 9,000 feet because I'm level, and the boost and engine gauges are all the same. You'll see the fuel's already nearer to half a tank than 3/4. That's how quick this thing uses fuel. So some basic maneuvers. We're going to do a left turn, so I'm going to push my joystick to the left and start a bank. So there we go, very small movement, and you'll see that as I turn the nose dips down and we lose height. So when you're in a turn you need to pull back on the stick. The steeper the turn, the more back pressure you need to pull the nose up and maintain height. You just have a play around with it, get a feel for it. If you climb up and get a bit of height, it doesn't matter if you're up and down a bit, but basically with a bit of practice you'll easily be able to hold a level turn. And like I say, the more you bank, the more you need to pull back, and that is a turn. Then to roll out, push the joystick right, leave off the back pressure, otherwise you'll go like this, and shoot up. You'll see that I've got blackouts and redouts there. That's just because I'm doing big control movements and it simulates the effects on your pilot. I won't go into that in too much detail, but if you pull back too hard you'll start blacking out like so, and eventually you will pass out and lose control for a set amount of time. So turning to the right is exactly the same principle. You turn right, pull back on the stick to maintain your height if you want to, and if you pull back harder you'll tighten the turn, but you'll also lose more airspeed. It's always good to make small movements and conserve your energy, your airspeed in this game. Airspeed is life. So try if you can to make small movements until you're in combat, and whenever you can really try and keep that speed as high as you can. While we're on the subject of speed, if you want to save a bit of fuel you can pull your throttle back like so. You'll see the boost has reduced. If I push it forward it goes up, back, down, and again that's controlling throttle. So if I idle the throttle and hold my height you'll see my airspeed is slowly ebbing away. I'm going to hold the nose up and I'll show you what happens when you get too slow to fly. That's known as the stall. So we're at 160 knots now. I'm going to have to keep pulling back more and more. As the aircraft slows the nose will want to drop, but I'll keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, and now we're stalling with that buzz. If I keep pulling, that's the stall, and we start spinning. Not good. So to stop that, let go of your stick, wait for the airspeed to increase, put your throttle on, and pull back. If you start spinning like this, just a minute. Probably won't do it now that I want to show it, but if you get into a spin, which will be something like this, you need to push your rudder in the opposite direction to the spin, so right rudder in this case, until it stops spinning, and try and get that nose to come down. You may have to jig the controls a bit, like if you're in a flat spin like me, and the throttle. There we go, we've pushed it out. No, have to do it again. There we are. And then we push it down. Let the airspeed increase and pull back. Very dangerous situation to be in that. You shouldn't get yourself in it if you make nice small corrections and watch your airspeed. So I'll just climb us back up because we've lost quite a lot of height there. So I'm pulling back on the stick, which is helping me to climb. If you want a bit of extra power in combat, most of the aircraft in Aces High 2 have WEP, which you put on with P. So if you look at the boost gauge you can see it's just under 12. If I put WEP on, I've got another 4 pounds of boost there. And that is giving me an extra burst of acceleration for when I'm in combat. Always good to put it on when you are in combat, but it is limited and it does use extra fuel. You can also dive the aircraft to gain speed, so if I just come up with WEP on, I'll just climb as quickly as I can. If you look at the airspeed, it shows about 180 knots, but if I dive, it will rapidly increase speed. There goes the speed, and just be careful that the aircraft is still controllable. Most of them will stay controllable up to 400 miles an hour, but after that the airflow can start getting disturbed over your control surfaces, and you may not be able to pull out of the dive and die horribly. So there's some basics for you there, guys. I don't really want to go over too much. I just want to get you guys up in the air and used to how your control inputs affect the aircraft. I will just take the aircraft back for landing. You press escape, it'll bring up your map. You can zoom in with insert and delete, or the magnifying glass on the top right there. If you right click that, it also zooms it in. If you left click it, it zooms in the actual clipboard, so whichever one works for you. And you can see the little airplane icon on the map there. That's you, and that is showing which way your aircraft is headed. So we're heading back to A1 now to make a landing. Another quick tip while we are on the way back is if you want to go away for some reason from the keyboard or whatever, you just want to climb up, if you press Alt and X, you'll see the little red light. You see auto here on the top left of the instrument panel. It's got a red light. That means I'm in auto climb, so the aircraft is climbing me at a speed that I've set, 160 knots, which is normal. You can change that, but I won't go into that. 160 knots there. It's climbing me stably at 160 knots with my wings level, so I can go away now and the aircraft will just continue to do this without any input from me. Again, if I want to turn that off, if you watch the light, the auto light, if I turn the joystick in any way, the light goes off and I have control again. The other autopilot is if you just press X, it's a yellow light now on the auto thing, that will fly you straight and level. This is a very useful one for when you're cruising to your target. Once you've got up to height, press that, it'll keep you in trim, and you can still change the throttle without it turning off. So if you want to set cruise power, which is about there, also pull the RPMs back, which I'll go into in more detail in another flight. It will basically keep you stable, same height, same heading. The other autopilot one, which I don't use that much, is Shift and X, where if I want to, say I want to climb at a certain angle, so I'll put the nose where I want it and then press Shift and X, the green light will keep my nose at that angle to the horizon, so it'll keep me in a steady angle of climb. But if I pull back on the stick, it'll try and keep the on the throttle, sorry, it will try and keep the nose there even when I don't have enough speed to fly, and eventually I will stall anytime now. There we go, we're now going down even though the nose is up, and now we're stalling. That buffet is the stall. It does seem to keep you relatively stable though, I must admit. Yeah, but I don't really use that one. So X or Alt and X are the main ones, I think. Others may disagree. And since we're in a Spitfire, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? Obviously the trigger on your joystick fires the guns. There you go. You can see the MGs and cannon rounds in the bottom of my instrument panel there. Shows me how many I've got left. And if you do this, you can go through them very quickly indeed. There are buttons where you can just fire your cannons or your MGs, but that'll depend on your joystick mappings, and I'm not going into all that. So yeah, you can see my fuel at the bottom right there is almost used up. It's in the red. Another quick tip for you, if you open the clipboard and you click E6B, it will tell you how many minutes of fuel you have left. That throttle setting of 0 boost, I have 42 minutes, but if I put full power on, it says 21. Well, that's unusual. It's not that long in the main arena. If I put WEP on, it's only 17 minutes, so you know, you can go through fuel quite easily when you're in a combat situation, so pay attention to your fuel. Always have a glance at it, and on your way home, don't be scared to pull your throttle back once you're out of harm's way to get maximum range out of your aircraft. So that's that's the basics of flight. You should be able to get off the ground and have a quick flight now. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know. It's my first video, so hope you like it. And yeah, I will just land the aircraft, and then I shall make another one. Don't come in this fast to land, whatever you do. You won't be able to put the wheels down for one thing. There we are then, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Any feedback greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.